welcome to Talkin Fight with Holly Donovan. I hope you had a fabulous week so far. Welcome to your preview show. I will be previewing the fight night that will be taking place in Nottingham on Saturday night. It's a Matchroom and DAZN card where we will be seeing Leigh versus Mauricio Lara. And that will be the WBA Featherweight World Championship. There's a lot of talk about this fight. A lot of people saying that it's going to be a really good fight, and I completely agree with them. I'm going to talk you through this and a couple of other fights that are on the undercard as well. So without further ado, let's begin with Leigh and Mauricio Lara. So Leigh, he has had 26 wins, 2 losses. 16 of his wins have come by way of knockout, and he is 34 years old. Mauricio Lara, on the other hand, very, very similar stats. He's had 25 wins, 2 losses, 18 KOs. He's 24 years old. So there is 10 years between them, but actually their CVs are very, very similar. So this fight was supposed to happen quite a few months ago. It got delayed as Leigh had a bicep injury, which obviously had to heal. Mauricio Lara has actually said that he was making it up, and it was all fake, and that he just needed more time to get ready to face him. Now, Mauricio Lara has proved himself to be a lot more worthy than we first thought back in 2021 when he was relatively unknown. So let's go through it. Let's start with Leigh first. So he is the current featherweight champ. He's held that title since 2021. He's also had the British title and the Commonwealth. He's in a good place right now. He's coming off 3 wins. He only had 1 fight in 2022. Obviously, he's had that bicep injury though, so even though it's been a while out of the ring, that would explain why. The last fight was against Michael Conlan. He was an undefeated champion. So he was 16-0, was Michael Conlan. Leigh came in as a bit of an underdog, and he managed to take the win. So he got a KO. That was in which round was that? I think it was in round 12. He got that KO despite being behind on the scorecards. So definitely a bit of an upset there, but it shows that he's got some power for sure. Now, he won the title in July 2021, where he was an underdog again against Zhu Can, but he managed to get a TKO then in round 12. So really good fighter. He's on his way up there, and a lot of people and pundits are saying that he does better when he is an underdog. So right now he is behind in the odds, which will probably mean that we get an even better Leigh on Saturday, which would be great. One of his losses, most recent one, I'll just quickly skip over it, was in 2020. That was to Jazza Dickens. That was when he lost his WBO European title. So he began boxing as a child. He used to go to a boxing club with his mates, and his brother, apparently his mate's mum, used to drive him all there. As the years went on, everyone else kind of quit and gave up, but Leigh remained and stayed, and he actually said he was completely addicted. He went to the Phoenix Amateur Boxing Club, which we'll know as the one that Carl Froch boxed out of. He also studied sport at college, and as an amateur he repped England. He was in the quarterfinals of the OBAs. Recently, I think it was 2020, he was in the Golden Contract tournament, which he said was great because it was just loads of opportunities to fight, basically, which obviously you don't get normally in this game with all this cross-promotion stuff going on. So him versus Mauricio Lara, it's going to be fun because it's a clash of styles. We're going to see him absolutely really trying to prove himself, coming off those 3 wins. He's going to be full of confidence. These guys are both the same height. There's really not a lot in them apart from the 10 years age difference. You could probably argue that Leigh a little bit more experienced. And I think the biggest difference is obviously that Leigh last fight was 11 months ago, and Mauricio Lara's was like 3 months ago. It was like October. So he's definitely been more active. So let's talk about Mauricio Lara now. Like I said, 25 wins, 2 losses, 18 KOs. He's from Mexico. Now, you will probably know him because he had a massive win over Josh Warrington, and it was a big fat upset. So it was meant to be one of those like tick over fights for Josh Warrington, and they got Mauricio Lara over thinking he'd be like, oh, keep busy fight, it'd be really easy, no problem, just go and knock him out. As soon as Mauricio Lara got into the ring, things looked very, very different. He was massively underestimated, incredible work rate, and really powerful as well, very aggressive fighting style. Josh Warrington did not know. he wasn't as aggressive as we've seen him. And Mauricio Lara managed to take the win with a TKO in the 9th round. Now, there was a rematch, but that was a big fat mess as well. So basically in round 2, it was stopped because of a head clash. Really disappointing, actually, because Josh Warrington had just had like the longest rink walk known to man, like proper AJ style, and then the fight didn't even happen. It lasted about 2 seconds. So there is a lot of bad blood going on there, and there needs to be that 3rd fight to settle the score there. I think Josh Warrington wants to prove himself. Mauricio Lara wants to be like, no, I am the winner. Okay, so here he is no longer the underdog because he has proved his aggressive fighting style. He's a big puncher. When you look on YouTube and look at his previous fights as well, like he's really good combination puncher. Now, the reason why we didn't know much about him is because he built most of his career in Mexico. Pretty much all of his fights began there. Really small, kind of humble team. Now, there is a slight percentage KO rate. Obviously, Mauricio Lara, he's got a higher percentage. And that last fight was only 3 months ago. He's also coming off 2 KOs. The last fight was Jose San Martin. That was a TKO in the 3rd round. That was in October back in Mexico. So, yeah, I mean, the odds, Mauricio Lara to win, it's 9 to 25 odds. You could still bet on Wood. I mean, obviously you get a bigger return. Do you know what? Jury's out on this one. I think I would like Leigh Wood to win. And I think he has the capability if he lands some of his power punches. But if I'm really honest with myself, I see Mauricio Lara winning this. Okay, so now let's move on to the next fight that I'm going to preview for you. So we've got Dalton Smith versus Billy Allington. Okay, so I like Dalton. He's one of those fighters that I've definitely previewed him before, but I've watched his career for quite a few years now, and yeah, I love it when you see them build. You know, when they become more and more brilliant every time they enter the ring. That's exactly what Dalton Smith has done. If you want to see like a real pro, like just, you know, beautiful boxing, great IQ, I would say that's what Dalton is. It's really precise. He's 13-0, so he's currently undefeated. He's had 10 KOs. He's only 26 years old. He's held the British super lightweight title since 2022. He made a defense. So his last fight was against Casey Benjamin. That's the one that I previewed. And that was a unanimous decision back in November. So you can see 12 rounds of quite a concise decision right there. The fight before that was Sam O'Mason. That was a TKO. And that was back in August. So he's proved that he's got the power. He can knock people out. He can get the stoppage, but he can also go the distance and do a really convincing win. He's got a nice story as well. So he is coached by his dad, Grant. Basically, when he was really little, he was only 5 years old. And he took up boxing with his dad, but his dad didn't know anything about boxing either. So his dad learned to be a trainer, simultaneously teaching Dalton how to be a boxer. And they literally learned together and went through this journey, which I think is lovely. Dalton was a footballer first, but it turned out he was way better at boxing. He managed to get, he started winning trophies, basically, and so decided to take on boxing properly. His dad, meanwhile, actually managed to be like a pro trainer before Dalton actually hit the pros. So his dad opened a Steel City boxing gym. He trained the pro champion Charlie Edwards, and obviously was training Dalton at the same time as well. In the amateurs, Dalton, he's silver European youth champ, bronze Commonwealth. He got gold at ABAs. He decided not to go to London 2020 Olympics because there were weight change rules that year. There's another fighter who I'm going to talk about who had the same decision. He also kept getting injuries and he thought, no, I'm not going to do it. So he signed with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom instead. And here he is. He pictures all of his opponents as if they're Mike Tyson. A little fact for you, don't I? If you want to see a great fighter, look at Dalton Smith. Let's talk about his opponent. I don't give his opponent much. Maybe I'm being mean. I haven't seen enough of Billy Allington. Maybe that's the problem. I've been following Dalton Smith. I can tell you everything about him. With Billy Allington, there is less. So from what I have learned and discovered and watched, we've got, he has had 10 wins, only 1 loss, no KOs, so no stoppages. He's 28 years old. Now, his last fight was in November last year. It was against Ben Fields, but it was just a 6-rounder. And I was like, why? Why is it just a 6-rounder? He won it on points, but it was just a bit odd because in February 2022, he fought Jamie Robinson. It was a split decision. That was a 10-round fight, and he became English super lightweight champion. So I was like, well, how do you go from 10 to 6? There are interviews with him where he's saying that he got really frustrated because fights were being cancelled. You know, he just took what he could, basically. So he's a fighter and he keeps going. He had 2 fights in 2022, 2 fights in 21. He also works as a trainer, so he works as a boxing trainer. So he obviously has got 2 careers going on. He began boxing at 13, so that's a lot later than Dalton Smith. But he started with karate, and then kickboxing. And his dad was a boxer, so that's like how he got into it. It was all very much a family affair. In the amateur, he had 42 wins out of 56 fights. Got silver in the Haringey Cup. He's been around. He fought in America twice and he won both fights. So I think here he'll be coming in as the underdog, as the lesser known fighter, and I think that won't faze him. I think he'll be up for this. He went pro in 2016. He only had 1 loss in 2019. When you look at him, he's sharp. He's pretty explosive. He's very well conditioned. So I think that, I don't know, it might be one of those things where everyone did to Mauricio Lara, where they thought, oh, no, he's not going to win, and then he's going to turn up and be absolutely brilliant. I think that Billy Allington clearly hasn't had many opportunities, and this is a great one. So I'm hoping for a good fight here. Let's now move on to the third fight that I'm going to preview for your fight night on Saturday. And we've got Gary Cully versus Wilfredo Flores. Now, I like Gary Cully, right? Because again, I've been watching his career. He's a great fighter. However, sometimes when you do all this research and you look at footage of the opponents, I really like Wilfredo Flores as well now. So I'll tell you a bit about them. So Gary Cully, he's 15-0. 9 of his wins have come by way of knockout. He's 27 years old, and he's a lightweight. He's a southpaw. He's the favour. He's called the Diva, and he's from Ireland. He's a tricky opponent, I think, being southpaw as well. Now, he was last out in October 2022. It was really explosive with a TKO in round 1, like blink and you missed it. That was against Joe Belmedi. I think I previewed that one, actually. Now, he began, I'll tell you, before that, he did fight Miquel Vasquez. That was also a KO in the 5th round, and that was in March 2022. So he's coming off 2 really explosive, brilliant wins. He began when he was 7 years old, and he won 6 of the underage Irish national championships. He won gold at European Youth. That was in 2013. And he also didn't go to the Olympics in 2020 for exactly the same reasons as Dalton Smith. So rule change, but then added to this as well, he didn't like the controversial decisions that had happened in 2016 back in Rio. That would be the fight with Michael Conlan. It was a really controversial loss. He didn't like that decision. He didn't want to be going into something that he thought might be a bit dodge. So instead, he went pro. He hooked up with Katie Taylor's dad, Peter Taylor, and Peter Taylor is his trainer. I love that. I think it's great. Peter Taylor is like, yeah, he's had such a big hand in the careers of the 2 best lightweights in the world, both of which are Irish. So I think that's quite cool. Now, when he went pro, he won the WBO European lightweight title. That was in March 22. Now, he has had the same amount of rounds as his opponent, despite having more fights, because obviously he ends them loads quicker. Some of his attributes is kind of like Tyson Fury. Well, I'm comparing him to Tyson Fury because of he's really tall and he's got very long arms. So it's hard to get him, especially being a southpaw as well. He's 6'2". So now let's have a look at Wilfredo Flores. So he has a great story. I hadn't heard of him. I had to look up footage and find him. Like, who is this guy? He's 10-0, 1 draw. He's had 5 KOs and he's 33 years old, so 5 years older. He's Puerto Rican born, but lives in the USA. Now, if he won this, it would be a massive upset. Will he? I don't know. He could. He was last out in May, so quite a while ago. That was a unanimous decision against Victor Betancourt Jr. And in that fight, he won the vacant WBA Fedicentro lightweight title. Now, in 2021, he only had 2 fights, and one of those was a draw. And he said quite openly in interviews, he was really, again, frustrated with inactivity. We hear this a lot, don't we? Now, he began at 3 years old with his dad. I don't know if you've heard of his dad, Abimelech El Bravo Flores. He was a pro boxer. His older brother also boxed too. And there's interviews and clips and things of 5-year-old Wilfredo shadowboxing his older brother, and eventually going into his own tournaments. Amateurs, he started so early. He won 100 fights, only lost 12. He was silver Golden Gloves champion. However, when he was 10, his dad, the pro boxer, passed away. And this absolutely, it destroyed him, and he couldn't carry on with boxing. And he just quit. He just quit altogether. He pulled himself away from the sport. And he went, because he was still very young, went into college basketball. And he literally just forgot about it and went into basketball, did that. He then got a full-time job, married his wife. But he said something was missing. Something felt really wrong, felt odd. And his wife said, look, it's boxing, go back. So he did. He quit his job and he went into boxing. He went pro in 2015. All fights so far have been in the USA. One of them has been in Mexico, and he does it because it makes him happy. He loves it. I think there's something lovely about that story, that he wants to box for his dad, and he couldn't be happy, pulling himself away from it because it was painful, but now coming back with something to prove. And I don't know about you, but that makes me think, oh, it wouldn't be so bad if he won. And I know that I should be supporting Gary Cully, which I am, but what a story. And I really hope that whatever happens, it's going to be a great fight and he gets an opportunity to really go for it in the ring. Haven't seen an awful lot of footage of his fighting. So again, this is one that I'd want to find out. So that's why I'm tuning in. All right, so they are your top 3 fight night, top 3 fights of the night for Saturday. So remember, that is on DAZN. Great night. It's going to be really good. Other fighters on that preview card as well, so obviously you can look them up. Begins from 7 p.m. Next week, I'm gonna mix things up a little bit, because we've got some weird nights. We've got the Floyd Mayweather night, and then there's also the Jake Paul Tommy Fury night. I don't normally do exhibition previews, or even I don't normally even get that involved with it. I like the real serious boxing. However, there's a really, really good fight on the Tommy Fury Jake Paul undercard, so I am going to be talking about that. And then on the Floyd Mayweather card, there's an incredible story of a boxer that I know and interviewed, and I'm going to release a special episode about her as well, because she came away from boxing, went to MMA, came back to boxing, and here she is on this fight night. So I'm going to do a bit of a mixture for you next week. I don't know what I'll call it, the preview of the exhibition fights, something like that. But there's actually a world title fight on them on the Jake Paul card as well. So tune in next week for that one too, and I hope you really enjoy Leigh versus Mauricio Lara on Saturday night. I'll speak to you soon.